It began with a phone call from a law office I'd never heard of. "Mr. Hawthorne, I'm calling regarding the estate of your late uncle, Thomas Whitlow." My mind blanked. I barely remembered the man. He was my mother's older brother, reclusive, estranged. I'd only seen him once at my mother's funeral. A gaunt, quiet man in a faded fisherman's coat. I remembered how the sea seemed to cling to him, like he'd soaked in brine for decades. "He left you his lighthouse." I almost laughed. His what? "The West Point Light. It's on a private island off the coast of Maine. You're listed as the sole heir." I should have declined. I should have told them to donate it to the Coast Guard or turn it into a museum. But curiosity is a kind of sickness, and I was already infected. The ferry was rusted and smelled like diesel. The captain didn't speak much, only nodded when I asked if he made this trip often. "No one goes to West Point anymore," he muttered. "Not since the old man stopped lighting the beacon." The island came into view like a bruise on the ocean, a gray smear of rock and gnarled grass lashed constantly by waves and wind. The lighthouse towered at the island's highest point, whitewashed but weathered, its black lantern room like a dead eye watching the sea. No docks, just jagged rocks and a short wooden pier that looked barely functional. The captain helped me off without ceremony and pushed away from shore before I could even thank him. I was alone. The path up to the lighthouse was lined with bent iron posts and old rope, like someone once tried to keep people from wandering too close to the edge. I trudged up with my duffel slung over one shoulder. The tower stood silent. No birds circled it. No gulls cried. The wind howled through the cracks in the stones. The front door groaned open. Inside, stone walls, cold and damp. A spiral staircase wound its way up to the beacon room, and just beside it, a small living space. A cot, a table, an iron stove, stale food and cold ashes in the hearth. I dropped my bag and sat on the cot. The air tasted of rust and mildew. I should have felt excited. Instead, I felt watched. That night, I lit a lantern and tried to read one of the books left behind. But the wind screamed through the cracks in the tower, and the lantern guttered often. Somewhere above, something creaked. A footstep? I stared at the spiral stairs. Nothing moved. Probably the wind. Probably. At around 2 a.m., I woke to cold. Not just chill, cold, bone deep, the kind that hurts your teeth and makes your joints ache. I sat up and noticed the lantern had gone out. The wind had stopped, completely. I stood. The boards under my feet creaked louder than they should have. Then I heard it, a dragging sound. Not footsteps, something softer, wet, sluggish, like fabric soaked in water being pulled across stone. It was coming from the tower above. I grabbed the lantern and climbed the spiral stairs slowly. Every creak echoed. 39 steps to the top. I counted. At the beacon room, the lens was dark. Dust floated in the moonlight, but the hatch that led to the outside balcony was open, swinging gently, and something wet lay on the floor. A line of seawater led from the hatch to the center of the chamber. There were no footprints, just a puddle. A pool that hadn't been there before. I closed the hatch, locked it, and told myself it was just wind-driven spray. But in the silence, I swore I heard a whisper, low, guttural, not words, just noise, hungry noise. I should have left the next morning. I even packed my bag, stood at the edge of the trail, and stared out at the water, hoping the ferry would appear. But the horizon stayed empty. No boats, no signal on my phone, just gulls circling far off, as if they too were avoiding the island. I tried the radio in the living quarters. Dead. No hum, no static, just silence. Either it was broken or something was jamming the signal. I told myself I'd stay just one more night, just long enough to figure things out. I wanted to understand why my uncle chose this place, why he stayed, why he'd never returned to the mainland. Part of me, stupidly, thought maybe I could fix things, clean the place up, sell it, maybe even write a book about it, turn the weirdness into content. I didn't yet know that you don't get to leave West Point Island. Not once you've opened the door, not once the light sees you. The next morning, sunlight made the tower seem almost normal again. I searched the living quarters for any sign of who my uncle had been. That's when I found the journal, wedged beneath the mattress of the cot. The leather was warped, pages curled and stained. I flipped to the last few entries. Jan 2nd, I saw them again, at the edge of the rocks, just standing there. Jan 7th, the beacon lit itself. I didn't touch it. They came closer. Jan 10th, There's something beneath the tower. I heard it moving. Jan 12th, if I don't feed it, it comes up. Feed it? The rest of the pages were torn or missing. I went back up to the beacon room. The puddle was gone. No stain, no salt residue, but the hatch was unlocked again. That afternoon, I noticed the base of the spiral staircase had a strange groove in the floor, like a seam. I got down on my hands and knees and found a faint latch embedded in the stone. It took effort, but I pried it open. A metal trapdoor, rusted and heavy. Beneath it, a short set of steps into darkness. The air that wafted up was cold, damp, and rotten. I hesitated, then descended with my lantern. The steps led to a narrow tunnel carved into stone. The walls were moist, the ceiling low. It shouldn't have been there. There were no records of catacombs or underground chambers in the lighthouse's plans. The tunnel twisted and turned, deeper into the rock. The light barely reached the end. Then the floor dropped into a pit. I crouched beside it, lantern held out. There were bones down there, not just animal, human, dozens, maybe more. Some of the skulls were cracked, others looked gnawed, and carved into the pit's rim in rough scratches. It hunts without eyes. Stay in the light. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at the table with every lantern I had, all lit, casting long shadows on the walls. The wind picked up. The tower groaned. Then came the sound again, dragging, but this time from beneath. And something new, a soft tapping, like fingers on stone or claws. I shut the trapdoor and weighted it with the stove. At 3:14 a.m. the beacon turned on. I hadn't touched it. I climbed the stairs slowly, heart hammering. From the top I could see the island. The cliffs, the waves, and them. Figures, 6 or 7, standing along the water's edge, unmoving, pale, gaunt, long-limbed, some hunched. One crouched like an animal. I turned off the light. They didn't move. I turned it back on, closer, just by a few feet, but closer. By the 5th night I understood. The light calls them. The dark releases them. The tunnel below is their den. And the lighthouse, it's not to warn ships, it's a seal, a prison. And my uncle, mad or not, was the jailer. In the journal's back pocket I found a smaller page. A list, handwritten. Seagulls, crabs, rats, not enough. Goats, deer. Worked for a while, marten from the mainland. Too much, had to dump the body. My stomach turned. My uncle had been feeding it, keeping it placated. And now, that was my job. The trapdoor burst open just before dawn. The stove flew off like it weighed nothing. I ran upstairs, slammed the beacon room door shut, and threw the locking bar across it. From below, I heard slithering, wet breathing. It came up the stairs slowly. It didn't pound. It didn't shriek. It waited. I huddled in the corner with the lantern clutched to my chest. Then I saw it, a hand slide under the door. Too long, too many joints, the skin like bloated parchment. It traced the edge of the wood, feeling, testing. The door held, but not forever. Morning came. Light filled the room. The hand withdrew. The slithering retreated. I unlocked the door. No sign of it. But now I know. If the light ever goes out for too long, if no one feeds it, it comes up. I haven't seen the ferry since the day I arrived. No contact. No radio. Maybe this is why Uncle Tom never left. Maybe this is why no one talks about this place. I think they let him live as long as he kept the beacon lit. As long as he brought them food. As long as he never told. It's been 2 weeks. The storm last night knocked the light out. I used every match I had to relight the backup lanterns. But one went missing. And I found wet prints, not footsteps, drags across the stone floor. They led up the stairs, stopped at my cot, then turned away. I don't sleep anymore. I don't eat much, and I keep the light on. Always. They're watching. From the sea, from the pit, from the cracks in the wall. Waiting. The fuel's almost gone. The backup generators are down. I tried building a fire in the beacon room, but the smoke just filled the chamber. There's a figure at the edge of the rocks now. Taller than the others. It waves sometimes. I think it wants me to come down. Or maybe it wants to come in. When I'm gone, don't come looking. Burn the island, scatter the ashes. And for the love of God, don't turn off the light.